There's something happening at the deepest level of reality that completely shatters everything you were ever taught about how the world works, about distance, about separation, about what's possible and what isn't. It's not some mystical theory or philosophical speculation. This is hard science, proven over and over again in laboratory after laboratory, in experiment after rigorous experiment, and it reveals something absolutely mind-bending about the nature of existence itself. Here's what they discovered. When two particles become entangled with each other, when they share that mysterious quantum connection, they remain intimately connected, no matter how far apart you separate them, no matter how much space you put between them. You can take one particle and send it to the other side of the galaxy. And here's where it gets wild. When you alter the state of one particle, the other one responds instantly. Not after a delay, not after the signal travels across space, but instantaneously, as if the distance between them simply doesn't exist at all. This completely violates every single thing that classical physics ever told us was possible, because according to everything we thought we knew, no signal, no information, no force should be able to travel faster than the speed of light. That's supposed to be the absolute cosmic speed limit, the unbreakable rule of the universe. And yet these entangled particles, they don't ask permission from that speed limit. They don't wait for the signal to arrive. They simply respond as if the distance between them is completely irrelevant, as if time itself is just an illusion, as if somewhere in a hidden layer of reality that we can't normally perceive, everything is already completely and totally one. Now pause for a moment and let that really land in your awareness. Let it sink all the way down into your bones, because this isn't just about tiny particles bouncing around in some laboratory somewhere. This is about you. This is about your consciousness. This is about your identity and who you really are beneath all the stories and conditioning and limitations you've been carrying around. The quantum world doesn't create some artificial separation between the observer and the thing being observed. It doesn't draw these rigid dividing lines between mind and matter like we've been taught to believe. What it actually says is that your focus, your conscious attention, literally collapses possibility into physical form. Your awareness selects which reality you experience out of infinite potential realities. But it goes even deeper than that, way deeper, because it suggests that entanglement, this mysterious quantum connection, is not limited to electrons and photons bouncing around in particle accelerators. It may very well apply to consciousness itself. And this changes absolutely everything about how you understand your life and your potential, because what it means is that your highest self, that future version of you, that healed and whole and abundant self, the version of you who already lives the reality you've been trying so hard to manifest, that version might not be something you have to painstakingly build from scratch through years of effort and struggle. That version might already exist right now in this present moment, and more than that, they might already be entangled with you, already connected to you through this invisible quantum thread. This isn't just poetic optimism or feel-good spiritual thinking. This is actually grounded in the principles of quantum mechanics, in real physics that we can measure and verify and prove. Let's get really precise about this for a moment so you understand exactly what's happening at the quantum level. When two particles become entangled with each other, they begin to share what physicists call a wave function, and that means their probabilities, their potential outcomes, are no longer independent of each other. They become part of the same unified equation, the same quantum system, and when the wave function of one particle collapses into a specific state, it immediately and instantaneously determines the outcome of the other particle, regardless of how much distance separates them in space. Now, imagine for a moment that your consciousness isn't just this isolated thing trapped inside your skull, bouncing around between your ears, but instead picture it as a non-local field, something that extends throughout your signal. The electromagnetic frequency you're broadcasting right now modifies the wave function of your identity across the entire multiverse, across every possible timeline and every possible outcome. This isn't science fiction anymore. This isn't wild speculation. The physicist David Bohm called this the Implicate Order, a deeper hidden layer of reality where all things are already enfolded into one another, already connected at a level we can't perceive with our ordinary senses. He believed that what we experience as separation, as you over here and me over there, and your dream somewhere far in the future, that's just an illusion created by surface appearances, by the limitations of our perception. Beneath that surface appearance, all points in space and all moments in time are already connected, not symbolically or metaphorically, but structurally, fundamentally, as part of the actual fabric of reality itself. In that view, your future isn't something you slowly move towards step by step through linear time. It's something you tune into right now through the frequency of your being, and the mechanism of that tuning, the dial you're adjusting, is your internal coherence, your state of being, your vibrational frequency in each and every moment. So let's completely reframe the question you've probably been asking yourself. Instead of asking, how do I get to my dream reality? How do I make this thing happen? How do I create this outcome? Ask yourself this: how do I align with the version of me who's already living it, who's already breathing that air, who's already experiencing that life? Because if entanglement is real, and all the evidence says it absolutely is, then that version of you is not just an imaginary construct you made up in your mind, it's not just wishful thinking or fantasy. It's a real, coherent pattern existing in the quantum field right now, and it is already emitting a signal, a frequency, a vibration that your consciousness can actually feel, that your nervous system can learn to attune to, that you can begin to collapse into physical form, not by forcing it or pushing it or grinding yourself down, trying to make it happen, but simply by coming into resonance with it. But here's the deeper insight that most people completely miss when they're trying to work with manifestation and quantum mechanics. The quantum field doesn't care about your desires. It doesn't respond to your words or your effort or your goals or how hard you're trying or how much you want something. What it responds to is coherence. It responds to the frequency of who you are being in each moment, and coherence only emerges, only becomes possible, when your thoughts and your emotions and your physical body are all aligned in a single unified signal, all broadcasting the same frequency together. This is exactly why most people never experience those quantum shifts they're hoping for, why they keep trying and nothing seems to change. They're thinking one thing in their head, feeling something completely different in their heart, and doing something else entirely with their actions and behaviors. Their field is noisy, dissonant, contradictory, like trying to tune into 3 different radio stations at the same time, and so the quantum field responds with static, with delay, with fragmentation, not because it's punishing them or because they're doing something wrong, but simply because it's being precise, because it's reflecting back exactly what they're broadcasting. And this is exactly why understanding entanglement matters so much, why it's so crucial to grasp this principle, because once you truly realize that you're already connected to your future self, already entangled with your dream reality through invisible quantum threads, the question becomes completely different. The question shifts from, how do I get there, to this: how clear is the signal I'm sending right now? Is my field stable enough to create collapse? Is my nervous system calm enough and regulated enough to hold the transmission? Is my identity consistent enough and coherent enough to maintain the connection? Most people approach manifestation by trying to visualize outcomes they don't actually believe in deep down, by repeating affirmations that their body doesn't trust or feel safe with, by taking action from a place of fear and scarcity and desperation. And that is not coherence, that is not alignment, that is interference. And interference is the absolute enemy of entanglement. Because entanglement requires purity of signal, it requires precision, it requires a frequency so clear and so stable and so unwavering that the field simply cannot ignore it, that the universe has no choice but to respond. And when that signal finally locks in, when your entire system becomes still and aligned and surrendered, when you stop fighting and forcing and trying to control, the field responds, not in metaphor or imagination, but in actual measurable physics. Probabilities collapse, timelines shift, opportunities and synchronicities emerge seemingly from nowhere, not because they were just created out of thin air, but because you finally tuned in clearly enough to the version of you that could receive them, that was already living in that reality. This is the core shift that we must make if we want to work with the quantum field instead of against it. We have to stop trying to build the future through sheer effort and grinding willpower, and instead start remembering that we are already entangled with it through the quality of our being in each moment. Your dream reality is not a reward you have to earn by being good enough or working hard enough or suffering enough. It's a frequency you access by becoming coherent, by aligning your inner world. And the only thing, the single thing that separates you from it right now, in this moment, is the quality and clarity of the signal you're sending out into the field. So if something in you has been sensing a version of yourself that feels freer, lighter, truer, more at peace, more abundant, more alive, don't dismiss that as fantasy or wishful thinking. That's not your imagination running wild, that's entanglement speaking to you. That's the wave function of your highest self, nudging you gently, inviting you to collapse a different path, to choose a different timeline. And the way to do that, the way to actually make that shift, isn't to try harder or do more or push yourself further. It's to tune deeper into that frequency, to soften into it, to let yourself become it. Because you are not separate from what you seek, you are already entangled with it at the deepest quantum level. And the field is listening to every signal you send, every single moment of every single day. We've been taught our entire lives to think of the mind as nothing more than a byproduct of the brain, just a bunch of neurons firing in isolation, a complex biological machine running a code that we call thought and consciousness. But modern neuroscience, quantum biology, and cutting-edge consciousness research are revealing something far more profound, something that changes everything we thought we knew about who and what we are. The mind is not confined to the skull, it's not locked inside your head, it's not bound by flesh and bone and brain tissue. The mind is actually a field, something expansive and intelligent and deeply, intimately entangled with the fabric of the quantum world itself. What does that actually mean in practical terms? It means that your thoughts don't just stay inside your head bouncing around, they radiate outward, they imprint themselves on reality. They interact with the unified field all around you in ways we're only beginning to understand. When you think, especially when you think with emotion, with feeling, with intensity, your brain generates measurable electromagnetic waves that scientists can detect and measure. And your heart, which is far more powerful than most people realize, amplifies those waves significantly. Your entire system, your whole body, becomes a transmitter in those moments, broadcasting a signal out into the world. And those signals don't just bounce around inside your body and then disappear. They enter the quantum field. They influence probability at the deepest level. They become part of the informational structure that actually determines which version of reality collapses into form, which timeline you experience, which outcomes manifest in your life. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's done incredible work bridging neuroscience and quantum physics, refers to this process as broadcasting a signal into the field. But it's not just some philosophical concept or spiritual idea. This is physiological. This is something happening in your actual physical body that we can measure with instruments. When your brain and your heart are in a state of what's called coherence, meaning your thoughts and emotions are synchronized and working together instead of fighting each other, your electromagnetic field becomes highly ordered, highly organized, and that order, that coherence, is exactly what the quantum field responds to most powerfully. Coherence creates clarity in your signal, and clarity creates collapse in the quantum field, turning possibility into reality. This coherence isn't some random thing that just happens by accident either. It corresponds to specific brainwave states that reflect deep focus, presence, and intuitive awareness, states you can actually learn to access intentionally. In high beta, which is that chaotic, stressed out frequency that most people live in most of the time in our modern world, your brain is noisy, fragmented, reactive, constantly jumping from one thing to the next. Your energy is scattered in 1,000 different directions, and your connection to the quantum field is weak and unstable, like trying to make a phone call with terrible reception. But when you drop into Alpha and Theta, those brainwave states associated with meditation, with deep intuition, with creative visualization, with that quiet internal space where insights arise, your brain begins to synchronize, the different parts start working together in harmony. And when your brain syncs with your heart, when those two powerful electromagnetic generators align with each other, a completely new field of possibility opens up, a doorway appears that wasn't there before. Studies from the HeartMath Institute, which has been researching this for decades, show that the heart's electromagnetic field is actually 60 times more powerful than the brain's field, 60 times stronger, and it can be detected several feet away from your physical body, extending out into the space around you. This field isn't just electromagnetic noise, it carries emotional information, it contains the quality of what you're feeling, and it influences not just your internal state, but actually affects the coherence of the people around you, creating a kind of resonance field. When you are genuinely in a state of love, of gratitude, of trust, of appreciation, your heart emits a coherent frequency that entrains your brain, that brings your brain into alignment with it, and together they broadcast a signal that speaks fluently to the quantum field that communicates in the language the universe understands. Now take this one step further and you'll start to see why this matters so much for your life. If your brain and heart can create coherent signals that measurably impact the field around you, then your entire nervous system becomes a kind of antenna, a quantum portal, a doorway between the invisible and the visible. And the quality of the signal you send through that portal determines which reality you entangle with, which timeline you collapse, which version of your life becomes real. This is not spiritual metaphor or poetic language, this is measurable frequency, this is wave mechanics, this is physics. Your thoughts and emotions are not private events happening in isolation. They are quantum instructions being broadcast into the field, and the implications of that are absolutely staggering. Because it means that the moment you enter a truly coherent internal state, where your beliefs and your emotions and your physical sensations are all aligned together, you become non-local in a sense. You step beyond the illusion of separation, beyond the boundaries of your skin, and you begin to access information that doesn't come from memory or logic or anything you learned, but directly from the field itself. This is what mystics and sages have described for thousands of years as revelation, as insight, as awakening, as direct knowing. It's what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, that deep reservoir of knowledge that we all share. It's what David Bohm described as the hollow movement, a flowing undivided wholeness that contains all potential realities at once, all possibilities existing simultaneously. But now we finally have the language of quantum physics and neuroscience to explain what used to be reserved only for mystics and saints, what used to be dismissed as supernatural or impossible. And here's the quantum twist that makes this even more powerful. When your inner world stabilizes in coherence, when you find that state of internal alignment, it doesn't just feel good. It doesn't just make you calmer or happier. It actually becomes a gravitational pull in the quantum field. It draws timelines toward you. It attracts synchronicities and opportunities. It collapses realities that match the signal you're emitting. And it allows you to entangle, literally and scientifically, with a version of yourself who already lives in that coherent field, who already embodies that frequency. Because remember, in the quantum universe, time is not this straight line. Moving from past to future, time is not linear in the way we experience it. Every version of you, every possible outcome, the future you who lives in alignment and peace and abundance, who breathes easily and moves confidently through life, is not just an aspiration or a dream or something you hope might happen someday. They are a pattern in the field right now. They already exist as a coherent possibility, as a real quantum state. The question is not whether they're real or whether that life is possible. The question is, are you coherent enough right now to receive their signal, to tune into their frequency, to collapse that timeline into your lived experience? This is why all true transformation, all real lasting change, begins within, starts with your internal state, because until your inner world becomes coherent and stable, your outer world will remain distorted and chaotic and fragmented. You cannot entangle with clarity if your field is full of contradiction and noise. You cannot collapse the future you desire if your nervous system is still stuck in patterns and trauma from the past. The observer effect in quantum physics tells us very clearly that the act of observation collapses possibility into form, that consciousness plays an active role in creating reality. But observation in the quantum sense is not passive. It's not just looking at something. It includes your attention, your emotion, your intention. It includes the whole of your consciousness, everything you are in that moment. And that consciousness is broadcast through your brain, through your heart, through your gut, through your entire electromagnetic field. Every single time you observe with alignment, every time you hold a coherent state while focusing on something, you collapse a new version of reality into being. And this brings us to a radical insight that changes how you relate to your own mind. The brain is not actually the source of the mind, it's not generating consciousness the way we've been taught. It's more like a receiver, a translator, a portal that allows non-local consciousness to interact with local reality. What you call thought, what you experience as your thinking mind, may actually be less about generating brand new ideas from nothing and more about tuning into frequencies and realities that already exist in the field, like tuning a radio to different stations that are already broadcasting. So the next time you feel a vision come through in meditation, seemingly from nowhere, the next time you sense a future self guiding you with gentle intuition, the next time you suddenly know something you never learned, something you couldn't possibly have figured out logically, don't automatically dismiss it as just imagination or wishful thinking. Consider instead that you just tuned in clearly for a moment, that your field momentarily aligned with a different frequency, that your consciousness reached across the quantum sea and touched the hand of your entangled self, the version of you that already lives in that knowing. Because the mind is not a prisoner trapped in the brain, it is the bridge between dimensions, between the quantum and the physical, between possibility and reality. And your coherence, your internal alignment, is the key to walking across that bridge into new timelines, new realities, new versions of your life. Before we go deeper, I want to invite you into something real, something that matters. If you've been feeling like something's finally making sense, if a part of you is waking up to your own power, to your own creative capacity, tap that like button if you just had an aha moment, because like attracts like, and your engagement tells me you're ready for more. Hit subscribe and that bell icon next to it. Stay with this space. Grow with us, because we're not just watching content here, we're practicing new ways of being. We're not just absorbing information, we're creating possibilities together. We're not just learning, we're remembering who we always were beneath the programming. I'm truly glad you're here. Let's keep growing and shifting together. Let's keep exploring this quantum edge of consciousness. And here's something I want you to do right now. Drop a word in the comments that captures the energy you're stepping into today. Maybe it's trust, maybe it's flow, maybe it's joy, maybe it's ease, maybe it's abundance, maybe it's something completely unique to you. Let that word be a small but profound declaration, a signal you're sending not just in this space but into the quantum field itself, a seed you're planting in the soil of infinite possibility. Go ahead, type it now, claim it, anchor it. If your consciousness is the signal being, they repeat affirmations that sound right on the surface but feel completely wrong in their body. They visualize futures that their nervous system is still terrified to actually hold. They chase timelines that never collapse into reality, not because the quantum field isn't working properly, not because manifestation is fake or broken, but because their internal code is completely out of sync, because what they're consciously wanting and what they're subconsciously broadcasting are two completely different frequencies. This is the silent sabotage of the subconscious mind, and it's running your life more than you probably realize. Let's be absolutely clear about something that might be hard to hear. Over 95% of your thoughts, your actions, your emotional reactions, the way you respond to life moment by moment, are not conscious choices. They are automated responses, programmed patterns, beliefs, and memories, and emotional signatures stored deep in your neurobiology, running on autopilot beneath your awareness. From the moment you were born, and actually even before you were born in the womb, you were absorbing frequencies from your environment, soaking up emotional signatures from your parents, from your culture, from experiences, and even traumas that you may not consciously remember. These absorbed patterns became the foundation of your identity. They became the lens through which you see the world, and unless you consciously update them, unless you deliberately reprogram that code, they remain in control, silently and rigidly and unseen, shaping every signal you send. You can consciously desire freedom and expansion while your subconscious still associates freedom with danger and punishment. You can speak abundance affirmations every morning while your body is still bracing for loss and scarcity. You can envision love and connection while your cells still carry the deep memory of betrayal and abandonment. And the quantum field, which is precise and impersonal and reflective like a perfect mirror, responds not to your hopes or your words or your surface level desires. It responds to your dominant signal, to the frequency you're actually broadcasting most strongly. And that signal is not your conscious voice saying what you want, it's the sum total of your coherence. It's what your whole system is emanating when you add up all the conscious and unconscious parts together. And when that coherence is fragmented by unconscious programming, by unhealed wounds, by limiting beliefs you don't even know you're carrying, the entanglement fails, the connection doesn't happen, the timeline stalls, the future doesn't land. Not because it's unreachable or impossible, but because you're not yet a vibrational match to receive it. Because your signal is saying, I want this, but I don't believe I can have it. I desire this, but I'm afraid of what will happen if I get it. Imagine trying to tune your radio to a station at 97.8 FM, but your signal keeps flickering back and forth between 88.1 and 103.5, jumping all over the dial. That's exactly what it's like when your inner code is filled with contradictions and conflicts. One part of you wants the future, another part fears it. One part trusts the field, another part tries desperately to control it. One part knows you're worthy, another part doesn't believe you deserve it. This fragmentation creates noise in your signal, and noise blocks entanglement. It prevents that quantum connection from stabilizing. This is why so many genuinely sincere spiritual seekers feel stuck. Why they've read all the books and done all the meditations and said all the affirmations, and still nothing seems to fundamentally change in their outer reality. Not because the quantum field isn't responding, not because they're doing it wrong, but because they haven't yet reprogrammed the version of themselves who's doing the seeking, who's sending out the signal. You can't collapse a new reality from an old identity. And identity is a program, it's a script written by experience, reinforced by repetition, and very often inherited without your conscious consent. Carl Jung said something profound that rings even more true when we understand quantum physics. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is especially critically true in the quantum realm because the subconscious mind, not your intellect, not your conscious thoughts, is the true observer. It's the real broadcaster. It is your deepest vibrational pattern, your baseline frequency, and it determines at the most fundamental level how safe you feel to receive, how worthy you believe you are, how much energy and expansion and abundance you're actually willing to hold in your nervous system. And unless that deep pattern is shifted and updated, unless you change the code at the root level, the field will keep collapsing the same loop over and over, giving you the same experiences, the same relationships, the same financial situations, the same emotional patterns, because that's what your signal keeps asking for. That's what your frequency keeps broadcasting. Let's bring this down from the abstract into the nervous system, into your actual physical body, because that's where the programming really lives. Your body is not just a biological machine. It's a memory field. It's a storage system for every trauma, every suppression, every unprocessed emotion you've ever experienced. Every single one of those experiences creates a physiological response in your system, a tightening, a bracing, a pattern of muscle tension, or shallow breathing or nervous system activation. And over time, as these responses repeat again and again, they form your baseline. They become the background noise of your existence, the default state you return to. Tightness, doubt, vigilance, avoidance, all of these patterns influence your signal whether you're aware of them or not. A person can consciously say with complete sincerity, I am ready to receive, I am open to abundance, I am worthy of love. But if their body is still stuck in sympathetic nervous system activation, still stuck in fight or flight or freeze mode, still bracing for the next threat or disappointment, then the signal the field receives is not readiness, it's fear. It's not openness, it's protection. It's not worthiness, it's unworthiness trying really hard to convince itself otherwise. And what returns from the field is more delay, more resistance, more evidence of the old timeline, more proof that nothing ever works out, which then reinforces the original programming even more deeply. But here's the deeper pain point that we have to talk about honestly. Most people think this resistance, this block, is their fault. They believe they're broken or damaged or unworthy, or somehow failing at manifestation, failing at spirituality, failing at life. They try harder, they push more, they force alignment, they white knuckle their way through affirmations, and in doing so, they actually reinforce the very program they're desperately trying to escape. The belief that it's hard, that I'm not there yet, that I must fight for it, that I have to force this to happen, that becomes the mental architecture that blocks quantum connection, that prevents entanglement from occurring. You cannot entangle with your highest self, with your most expanded version, while you're living in a survival state, while your system only knows how to replicate the past, only knows how to brace for danger and disappointment. That's why true transformation, real lasting change that actually sticks, doesn't begin with motivation or willpower or positive thinking. It begins with liberation. Liberation from the unconscious code, from the internalized noise, from the outdated frequency that once kept you safe in childhood or in a traumatic situation but now keeps you small and stuck and separate from your potential. Let me tell you a story, one you might recognize in your own life in some way. There was a man who had everything planned out, who studied the science of manifestation, who practiced all the steps, who made the vision board and said the affirmations and meditated daily with discipline. But nothing changed in his actual life. Nothing shifted. Same scarcity loop, same emotional triggers, same feeling of pushing toward a future that never seemed to arrive, like running on a treadmill, getting nowhere. Until one day, exhausted and frustrated, he stopped asking, "What am I doing wrong?" and instead asked himself a deeper question: what part of me still doesn't believe this is safe? What part of me is afraid of having what I want? And that question, that honest inquiry, cracked something open inside him. He saw a moment years earlier when he had achieved a real breakthrough in his life, when things were finally going well, and then he lost everything, it all fell apart. And deep in his subconscious, below his conscious awareness, a belief had taken root in that moment. When I receive, I lose. When I shine, I'm punished. When I expand, I get hurt. When good things happen, it wasn't until he brought that story into full awareness, into conscious light, and began to actively rewrite it, to update that program, to show his nervous system that expansion could be safe, that the field finally began to respond differently, that new timelines started opening, that synchronicities started appearing. Because the field doesn't mirror your surface, it doesn't respond to what you pretend or wish, it mirrors your source, your deepest frequency. And until that source is purified, until that core program is updated, the signal stays fractured, no matter how hard you try. This is not about blame. This is not about making you feel bad or wrong or broken. This is about awareness, about understanding how the system actually works. You are not broken. You never were. You are simply broadcasting, sending out a signal. And that broadcast is not who you really are beneath everything. It's what you've been trained to emit by your experiences and conditioning. The moment you truly realize that, the moment that lands all the way down, is the moment you reclaim your power to reprogram, to change the code, to update the signal. Because the quantum field is not loyal to your past, it's not committed to keeping you stuck, it's loyal to your pattern, to whatever frequency you're broadcasting most consistently. And patterns can be rewritten, programs can be updated, signals can be purified and clarified. You are not too late, you haven't gone too far, you haven't messed up beyond repair. You are simply entangled right now with a version of reality shaped by a story that no longer belongs to you, shaped by a program that's outdated. And now, right now, in this moment, it's time to change the code, to update the operating system, to become the clear channel for the reality you actually want to experience. In the comments below, share one thing you truly want to manifest, something that's most important to you right now. Maybe it's financial abundance, maybe it's a loving relationship, maybe it's a healthy, vibrant body, maybe it's inner peace, maybe it's something completely unique to your soul's journey. Let this be a small but profound declaration, a signal to the universe you send not just in the space but into the quantum field itself. Drop it below, claim it, make it real by naming it. If you've made it this far in this journey, something in you already knows at a deep level that the future isn't something you chase down. It isn't something you hunt or pursue or force into being. It's something you connect with, something you attune to, something you collapse into through the quality of your being. And that connection, in the quantum sense, doesn't happen through thought alone. It doesn't happen through wishing or wanting or trying really hard. It happens through coherence, through becoming, through recording the patterns your nervous system has been trained to repeat over and over, and consciously replacing them with the frequency it once feared but is now ready to hold. So now we shift. We move from concept into calibration, from theory into practical field work, from understanding into actual embodiment. Because knowing is not enough. Understanding is not enough. You have to become it. Let's begin with a principle that's grounded in both quantum mechanics and cutting-edge neuroscience, something that's been proven repeatedly in laboratory studies. Your brain doesn't actually know the difference between a memory of something that happened and a vivid, emotionally charged imagination of something you're visualizing. They light up the same neural pathways, they create the same chemical responses, they feel the same to your nervous system. When you visualize something with rich sensory detail, when you add emotional weight to it, when you really feel it in your body, in your brain, and more importantly, your physical body begins to treat that vision as if it's real, as if it already happened. The neural circuits fire in the same patterns, hormones get released into your bloodstream, your electromagnetic field shifts and changes, and you start to emit a signal that matches that imagined state, that future reality. And the field, always listening, always responding, doesn't care whether it's true or not, doesn't judge whether it really happened. It only responds to whether your signal is consistent, whether it's coherent, whether it's clear. This is the actual mechanism behind mental reprogramming, behind rewiring your identity. You don't affirm the future into being by just repeating words mechanically. You become the future by fully embodying the frequency of already, by living. So, take a breath right now, find a quiet space within yourself, let the noise settle, let the thoughts slow down. Let the words that follow not just pass through your ears or across your eyes, but through your field, through your whole being. Let them guide you into alignment, not through control or force, but through softening, through presence, through simple willingness to receive. Now imagine, really see in your mind's eye, a version of you who has already made the quantum leap you've been seeking. They are not perfect, they haven't transcended all human challenges, but they are whole, they are integrated, they are aligned. They walk with clarity and purpose, they breathe with ease and peace, they move through life with a frequency that feels settled and grounded and magnetic at the same time. They are not reaching for something outside themselves, they are not trying to prove anything to anyone, they are simply living, simply being, simply experiencing the reality that resonates with their frequency. See them clearly. Where are they right now? What are they wearing? How do they hold their body? How do they speak to themselves and others? What does their daily life look like? Not just the external circumstances, but the emotional texture of it, the felt sense of how they move through their day. And now, this is the key. Feel them, not from a place of distance or separation, not from over here, looking at them over there, but from a place of recognition, of remembering. Because this version of you is not somewhere else in some distant future. They are here now in this present moment, existing as a coherent pattern in the quantum field. And the only thing separating you from them, the only gap that exists, is the emotional distance between your current frequency and theirs, between who you're being right now and who they are being. So begin to close that gap, start to dissolve that separation. Breathe the way they would breathe, slow and deep and easeful. Soften your shoulders the way they hold theirs, relaxed and open. Release the tension in your jaw. Let your facial muscles relax. Let your heart slow down and find its natural rhythm. Let your thoughts dissolve into spaciousness, into presence, into stillness. Let yourself feel, even if just for a moment, even if it's subtle and quiet, what it's like to already be them, to already live in that frequency. Hold it, stay with it, don't let your mind pull you away. Let your nervous system calibrate to this new baseline. Let your cells absorb this frequency. Let your electromagnetic field reorganize itself around this pattern. This is not fantasy. This is not pretending. This is quantum alignment happening in real time. Because right now, in this very moment, your nervous system is actually rewriting itself. Your brain is forming new neural pathways. Your body is releasing different hormones. You are replacing the signal of lack and wanting with the signal of sufficiency and having. You are dissolving the code of effort and struggle with the signal of embodiment and ease. And in this state, coherent and clear, the field listens with full attention, because the field doesn't respond to want or need. It doesn't respond to striving or pushing or trying to make something happen. It doesn't even respond to intention alone, to just thinking about what you want. It responds to being, to identity, to the resonance of who you are in each moment. So, as you hold this state for as long as feels natural, remember deeply that this is the frequency your future responds to. This is the signal that collapses the timeline you desire, not by chasing it down or hunting it or forcing it to appear, but by tuning to it like a radio dial, finding the exact right station. And tuning is not force. Tuning is surrender. It is presence. It is the willingness to stop narrating the old story for long enough that the new one can form and take shape. It is giving your body permission to feel safe in a frequency it was once trained to fear, to avoid, to protect against. It is allowing your subconscious to receive a new instruction, a new program. I am not the version that suffered and struggled. I am the version that remembers and reclaims. I am the version that already lives in alignment. Because that's what reprogramming truly is at the deepest level. It's not about repeating what you want over and over hoping it will stick. It's about becoming who you already are, beneath all the programming and conditioning, beneath all the layers of protection and fear and limitation. And now, a single act, small and symbolic but vibrationally significant. In the comments below, type the words, "I am entangled and nothing else." Not for me, not for other people watching, but as a marker in your own field, a declaration to the quantum field itself, a signal of readiness, of coherence, of return to your true frequency. Because when you name it, when you claim it out loud, you anchor it, and when you claim it, the field begins to respond in ways you may not see immediately, but are absolutely happening beneath the surface. You are not pretending or making something up. You are remembering a truth that was always there. You are not creating from scratch. You are collapsing from signal, from frequency, from resonance. And the version of you that already lives this truth, that already breathes this reality, feels you now in this moment, recognizes you, welcomes you home. Stay here for as long as your system allows, for as long as it feels natural and true. Let the vision saturate your cells. Let the emotions settle deep into your field. Let the old code, the old programming, begin to melt in the presence of this new frequency, this new way of being. And if it feels subtle, if it's quiet rather than dramatic, that's actually perfect. That means it's real and genuine. Because quantum change isn't loud or flashy, it's not fireworks and lightning bolts, it's precise and deep and intimate. It moves beneath the surface, in stillness, in sensation, in the quiet rhythm of your breath. This is not performance, this is access. This is not magic tricks, this is mechanics, actual quantum mechanics at work. And you are the bridge, you are the portal, you are the consciousness that collapses possibility into form. So let this practice be more than just an exercise you did once. Let it be an invitation to live from the signal you've just activated, to carry it with you as you move through your day. Let it bleed into your choices, your posture, your voice, your responses, the way you walk into a room, the way you speak to yourself in quiet moments. Because the more you stay in this state, even if it's just for a few moments at a time throughout your day, the more your field stabilizes in that frequency, the more coherent your signal becomes. And when your field stabilizes, when your signal becomes crystal clear, reality doesn't have a choice. It bends, it shifts, it reorganizes itself around your new frequency. Not because you forced it, but because that's how the quantum field works. That's the nature of consciousness and matter interacting. There comes a moment, and you'll know it when it arrives, subtle and quiet and absolutely unmistakable. It's the moment when the chase dissolves completely, when the part of you that has been reaching and striving and hoping and pushing simply stops, not from exhaustion or giving up, but from remembrance, from recognition, from a deep cellular knowing that rises up from somewhere ancient and true inside you. What you've been looking for, what you've been seeking outside yourself, is not ahead of you in some distant future. It's already within you right now. It's already here. And the real work, the only work that actually matters, is not to get there, not to become something you're not, but to return here, to remember who you already are beneath all the forgetting. This is the essence of quantum becoming, and it changes everything once you truly understand it. You don't attract your dream life like it's something separate from you floating out there in space. You become the frequency that matches it. You embody it so completely that you and it are no longer two different things. And then the field has no choice but to align, to reorganize, to collapse that reality into your lived experience. But here's what most people miss. To become is not to fake it. It's not to act as if from a place of lack and desperation. It's not to pretend you're something you're not while your body is screaming the opposite. It's to remember, to recognize, to return to the version of you that already exists beyond the noise and conditioning. The self that has always been aligned and expanded and clear. The self that never forgot even when you did. You are not inventing that self from nothing. You are not creating them from scratch. You are collapsing into them. You are remembering them. You are tuning to their frequency like finding a radio station that was always broadcasting but you couldn't hear through the static. Let's anchor this in the science again so it stays grounded and real. Every possible version of you, rich and poor, healed and broken, fulfilled and empty, confident and afraid, joyful and suffering, already exists right now as a wave function in the quantum field. These wave functions are not static images sitting frozen somewhere. They are energetic blueprints, living probabilities, vibrational realities that flicker in and out of possibility every single moment. And the version you actually experience in your physical life, the one that becomes solid and real, is determined by one thing and one thing only: coherence. When your internal state, the totality of your thoughts and emotions and physical sensations, matches the frequency of one of those waveforms, matches it clearly and consistently, that version collapses. It becomes your lived reality. It materializes in your experience. This is not spiritual poetry or motivational speaking. This is quantum physics in action. This is the observer effect working exactly as it's designed to work. But not the shallow version you've heard 1,000 times that makes it sound simple and easy. Observation in the quantum sense isn't just visual focus or thinking about something. It's identity. It's being. It's the totality of your electromagnetic presence acting as the selector of reality, the chooser of timelines. So the question is no longer, how do I get to my dream reality? How do I make this happen? How do I create this outcome through effort and action? The question transforms completely. It becomes, how do I stabilize in the identity of the version of me who already lives it, who already breathes that air, who already experiences that life as normal and natural? And that shift in the question changes absolutely everything about how you approach your life. It changes how you breathe throughout your day. It changes how you walk into a room and hold space. It changes how you speak to yourself in those quiet internal moments when no one else is listening. It changes what you tolerate and what you expect and what you prepare yourself to receive. And here's the beautiful paradox that emerges when you really get this. The more you act like you already are that version, the less you need to prove it to anyone, including yourself. The more you live from your future self, the less you need to chase it down or hunt for it. And the field, always listening, always precise, always responding, begins to collapse that reality faster than logic can comprehend, faster than your rational mind thinks should be possible. Because when you become the signal, instead of just broadcasting a wish or a hope, the delay disappears, the gap closes, the separation dissolves. But let's be completely honest about something, because becoming isn't always glamorous, it isn't always comfortable, it doesn't always feel like a breakthrough or an awakening. Sometimes, honestly more often than not at first, it feels like discomfort, like grief, like resistance, like everything in you wants to go back to the familiar, even if the familiar was painful. Because you're not just stepping into a new frequency, you're simultaneously shedding every single part of you that was built to survive the old one. Every defense mechanism, every protection pattern, every way you learned to keep yourself safe in a reality that felt threatening or scarce or dangerous. That shedding can look like stillness when you're used to constant motion. It can look like doubt when you're used to false certainty. It can look like silence when you're used to filling every moment with noise and distraction. But beneath that stillness, beneath that doubt, beneath that silence, something profound is happening. Something is calibrating, something is reorganizing, something is being rewired at the deepest level. Your field is stabilizing around a new center point. Your nervous system is learning slowly and carefully that safety is no longer found in the old pattern, that protection is no longer needed in the same way, that expansion doesn't have to mean danger or punishment or loss. And the version of you that already exists in that possibility, in that expanded frequency, they are not waiting for you to impress them or prove yourself worthy. They are simply waiting patiently for you to trust them enough to let them guide you, to let them show you how they breathe, how they think, how they move through the world. You trust them by walking the way they walk, by carrying yourself the way they carry themselves. You trust them by thinking from their perspective instead of your current limitations. You trust them by stopping the constant broadcast of "I'm not there yet, I haven't made it, I'm still broken, I'm still stuck," and replacing it with the quiet knowing of "I'm already living it, I already am it, this is who I actually am beneath the temporary forgetting." This is exactly what Neville Goddard meant, what he was pointing to when he said assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. He didn't mean force the emotion. He didn't mean pretend until you make it. He meant stabilize in the identity. Let it become your base frequency, your natural state, your home vibration, the place you return to automatically. And once it is, once your thoughts and emotions and behaviors begin to hum together in harmony with that self, in coherence with that frequency, the field stops reflecting your efforts and your struggles and your trying, and it starts reflecting your essence, your being, your true nature. Because essence is magnetic in a way that effort never can be, and your essence is not something you have to earn or achieve or become worthy of. It's something you remember, something you uncover, something you return to like coming home after a long journey. So, who would you be today, right now in this moment, if you knew beyond any doubt that your dream reality was already real, already happening, already yours? How would you move through the next hour? What would you stop explaining or defending or justifying? What would you start honoring in yourself that you've been dismissing or ignoring? These are not hypothetical questions, these are calibration points. These are the adjustments that shift your signal. Because each time you choose, consciously and deliberately, to act from the identity you're becoming rather than the one you're leaving behind, you broadcast a new signal into the field, and that signal begins to override the old code, slowly at first, then faster, then powerfully, then inevitably. You are not doing this to convince the universe of anything. You are doing it to collapse into the version of you that the universe already created, that already exists as a pattern in the field waiting to be activated, waiting to be lived. That's why this whole process isn't about effort or grinding or pushing harder. It's about alignment, about coherence, about coming home to yourself. Not about doing more things, but about being more coherent in who you already are. Not about visualizing harder or affirming louder, but about vibrating more honestly, more authentically, more consistently with your truth. Not about forcing change through willpower, but about becoming the living proof that the change already happened, that you already are what you've been seeking. Because when your field becomes indistinguishable from the one you desire, when there's no gap between who you're being and who you want to be, there is nothing left to manifest, nothing left to create or attract or chase down. There are only timelines left to receive, only realities left to collapse into, only frequencies left to embody. So, breathe into that truth right now, let it land in your body, let yourself soften around it. Let the grip loosen, let the trying dissolve, let the version of you who already knows, who already lives in that frequency, begin to lead you forward, not someday in the future, but now, right now in this exact moment. Because becoming is not a destination you arrive at after years of work, it is a daily, moment by moment, return to the you that already exists beneath the programming, beneath the fear, beneath the forgetting. And every single time you choose to return, you strengthen that signal, you anchor that frequency, you make it more real, more solid, more permanent in your lived experience. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this today, someone who's been struggling, someone who's been trying so hard but feeling stuck, someone who needs to be reminded of their own quantum power. Because when you share value, when you spread this frequency, you're not just helping them, you're strengthening your own signal, you're declaring to the field that you're ready for more, and that energy comes back to you multiplied. Be the friend who shares breakthroughs, not just distractions. Be that person who changes someone's whole week just by caring enough to send them something real. Not everything that changes you makes noise, not every shift announces itself with fanfare. Sometimes, actually most of the time, the most powerful shift doesn't come with fireworks or dramatic breakthroughs or grand declarations that everything is different now. It arrives in stillness, quiet and subtle, almost unnoticed at first, a gentle recalibration of the field happening not outside you in your circumstances, but within, in the deepest part of your being. A shift so precise, so resonant, so aligned, that the entire structure of your reality begins to reorganize itself without a single word being spoken, without you having to announce it or prove it or convince anyone, including yourself. This is the realm where true manifestation actually lives, where real creation happens. Not in the shouting or the grasping or the constant checking for signs and evidence, not in the desperate energy of is it working yet, did it happen, where is it? But in the silent frequency of coherence, in the quiet hum of alignment, in the peaceful certainty of simply being who you already are. Because the quantum field does not need your performance. It doesn't require you to put on a show or prove how spiritual you are or demonstrate how hard you're trying. It responds purely to your presence, to the quality of your being, to the clarity of your signal. And when your presence carries no contradiction, when your frequency hums in quiet alignment without static or interference, when every part of you is finally singing the same song, the field moves without hesitation, without delay, without resistance. Timelines collapse not through effort or force or struggle, but through elegance, through the vibrational certainty of a being who no longer needs to chase or prove or protect, because they already are, because they've already remembered, because they've already come home to themselves. That is what your entangled self is waiting for. That is what your highest version is listening for. Not your effort, not your struggle, not your worthiness being proven. Just your arrival, just your return, just you finally becoming who you always were beneath everything else. And here's the mystery, the beautiful paradox of it all. You often won't feel the shift when it first happens. You won't notice the exact moment when everything changes. You'll just feel a pause, a release, a strange spaciousness opening up inside you, like something just clicked into place beneath the surface, and suddenly the need to control has disappeared. The urge to force has dissolved, the desperation to make it happen has lifted. You'll find yourself speaking less about what you want, doubting less whether it's possible, grasping less for evidence and proof. Not because you're trying to be spiritual or because you're following some manifestation technique, but because the version of you who used to cling and chase and worry has simply dissolved, has been replaced by someone who knows, who trusts, who rests in certainty without needing to announce it. That dissolution, that quiet shift, is the evidence. That is the proof that something real has happened. Because every version of reality you've collapsed so far in your entire life, every experience you've ever had, began as a frequency, began as a vibration, began as a signal you were broadcasting before it ever became physical. And this one, the one that carries your peace and your purpose and your abundance and your joy, is no different at all. It begins here, now, in the calm, in the breath, in the exact vibration you're holding in this present moment, in the quality of your being right now, as you receive these words. And the field is responding, whether you can see it yet or not, whether you have evidence yet or not. You may not see it in your physical reality immediately, you may not feel it fully in your body yet, but something has already begun moving toward you, or more accurately, something has already begun moving within you, shifting, reorganizing, collapsing into form. Not from outside, not from somewhere far away, but from the core of your entanglement, from the deepest level of your connection to the field, from the self that never left, the self that always knew, the self that patiently waited for you to remember. So let this be your final remembering, the truth you carry forward from this moment. You're not calling in a new reality from somewhere outside yourself. You're not attracting it or manifesting it or creating it from nothing. You're collapsing into the one that was already calling you, the one that already exists as a coherent pattern in the quantum field, the one that's been waiting for your signal to match its frequency. And the signal that allows that collapse, that makes it possible, is not noise or effort or trying, it's silence, but not the absence of sound, the presence of clarity. Not the stillness of fear or avoidance, but the stillness of trust, of knowing, of complete surrender. Not the void of doing nothing out of giving up, but the vibrational signature of no longer needing to do anything to deserve it, to earn it, to prove you're worthy of it. This is coherence in its purest form, and coherence is the only language the quantum field truly speaks, the only frequency it responds to with absolute precision and certainty. So, if your journey feels quiet right now, if things feel still rather than dramatic, if you're not seeing massive external shifts yet, that's actually good, that's perfect. It means your system is stabilizing around the new frequency. It means your field is clearing out the old static and interference. It means you are finally, truly becoming a vibrational match to what you used to only imagine, to what you used to think was impossible or far away. And when your imagination becomes your identity, when who you've been visualizing becomes who you actually are, the future has no choice but to meet you there. Not through force or pushing or making it happen, but through inevitability, through the natural unfolding of quantum mechanics, through the elegant precision of a field that always matches the signal it receives. This is the nature of the quantum, this is how it works, how it's always worked. It responds not to your timeline or your schedule or your ideas about when things should happen, but to your tone, to your frequency, to the quality of your signal. So keep tuning, keep softening, keep remembering that the dream is not far from you. It's not somewhere in the distant future waiting for you to finally deserve it. It is near, it is here, it is you, it has always been you. And you are finally remembering that truth. And if this message found you, if it resonated not just as an idea in your mind, but as a frequency in your body, if something inside you slowed down or softened or settled while you've been reading or listening, then let that be your confirmation. Let that be your sign. You're not just consuming content. You're not just watching another video. You're answering a signal. You're syncing with a community that's walking the same path. Not of control, but of coherence. Not of effort, but of embodiment. And if you'd like to stay in this field, to keep expanding and deepening and collapsing new timelines through resonance rather than resistance, you're invited to subscribe to this channel, because this space isn't just a channel posting videos. It's a frequency, it's a field, it's a community of conscious creators who understand that reality bends not to those who try the hardest, but to those who become the clearest, the most aligned, the most coherent. And now you're part of it. Now you're tuned in. Now you're broadcasting on this frequency with all of us. The quantum field is listening to your signal, and everything is already shifting in response, even if you can't see all the evidence yet. Trust the process, trust the frequency, trust yourself. And if you're ready to go even deeper, if this awakens something in you that wants more, that's ready for the next level of understanding, click through to the next video where we explore how to maintain this quantum state, how to stabilize in this new frequency permanently, and how to navigate the specific blocks that keep most people from ever fully embodying their highest self. The journey continues, and you're exactly where you need to be.